Today I'm going to show you how to make the typical biscuit using the biscuit method. These are the ingredients. We have flour, all-purpose flour. In your lab packet and your textbook, it's a mixture of bread and pastry flour. I'll just do all-purpose because it's almost the same. We have salt, sugar, baking powder, milk, and butter. That's your typical regular biscuit recipe. I'm going to do a variation. It's going to be a green onion Monterey Jack one, just because if I'm going to be eating it, I might as well put ingredients in it that I want to eat. Instead of just a plain one, I'm just going to show you what you can do with just a biscuit. So, first thing, make sure your butter is cubed and really cold. You don't want it frozen. You just want it nice and cold so the butter doesn't absorb into your dry ingredients. We're going to sift these ingredients into the mixing bowl. The dry ingredients, here's my sifter. Here's all the dry. So that's your baking powder, sugar, salt. Okay. I'm gonna sift that just to make sure there's no lumps. If you're using kosher salt or some sort of chunky salt, just add it after because it's gonna get stuck in your sieve or your sifter. Okay, so I have my dry ingredients. I'm gonna add my cold fat, my cold butter. You could do butter or shortening or a combination of both. Okay, if you have a pastry blender, you could go ahead and use a pastry blender. Or you could put this in a mixer and mix it on low with a paddle attachment. You could also use a bowl scraper. This is very, it's the same way that we did the pie dough, okay? Or the same technique to make a pie crust. But with a biscuit recipe, it is one of the quick bread recipes, and it's considered a, what do they call it? A soft dough in the quick bread category, okay? And the difference between this and a pie dough is that the butter chunks are a little bit bigger than your flaky pie crust, okay? So I'm just gonna break up the fat. I don't wanna break it up too much. It looks good right now. They're basically, it's still chunky, which is good because those are gonna be my flakes in my biscuit. So now I am going to add any mix-ins. I'm gonna add some cheddar cheese and some green onions. I grew these green onions in my windowsill. Very fragrant, really actually pretty nice. They're not from the refrigerator. Okay, so they smell really good. Okay, so I'm just gonna mix my dry ingredients together. Then I'm gonna slowly add my liquid. Okay, and I'm just gonna mix this with my bowl scraper. You could just mix it with your hands. I'll do it just in case you don't have a bowl scraper. I'll mix it with my hands so it just comes together a little bit. See, there's a little bit of dry bits on the bottom, just like a pie dough. Just want to moisten that. You don't want it too dry. You don't want it too wet. You just want to do it till it holds together. I think this one will use all the liquid. I could feel it already. Okay. All right, looks good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is turn this out into the bench. I have my bag of flour here. I'm gonna turn out this into the bench. And for a biscuit dough, you want to knead it just enough to create flakiness, okay? You don't want to work it too much that it will get tough. You just want to knead it just so we create those flakes. See those butter chunks? Right now I'm squishing it. Then I'm going to clean my hands off a bit. Fold in one side. Okay, then I'm gonna knead it down. I'm creating layers. Okay, I'm just pressing it down. I'm not working it like a typical bread dough, but I'm actually creating these folds. You could use a rolling pin if you want, but I'll just use my hand so I don't overwork it. Okay, I'm gonna fold it little bit more. Okay, I think it's almost there. All right. I think one more fold and I think it should be ready to go. Okay, once I have, see how it's a little bit smoother but still shaggy? Then that's what you want. Clean up all this. Okay, then I'm gonna take my rolling pin. Oh yeah, my rolling pin. I'm gonna lightly flour the top of this so it doesn't get stuck. Lightly flour the bottom. Okay. I'm gonna take this, then I'm gonna roll it out to, I like a thick biscuit, so I don't wanna roll it out too thin. Maybe a 1/2 inch at the most. All right, that looks good. So that's a pretty good thickness, okay? It's not the perfect square or rectangle. This is a very small recipe. It's the 4th of the recipe in your book. You could do the whole thing, but a good trick, if you're going to cut in circles, you'll have more waste. See, if you cut circles, all this will be re-rolled. You could squish them together and make more rounds. What I like to do is you could use a bench scraper or a knife. Clean off the ends a little bit. Okay. And then I'll make square biscuits. They're good for breakfast sandwiches and you have less waste. I'll do 4 big ones because me. And then these, you can already see the layers. Look, we cut that open. Look at that layering going on in there, okay? This one, I'll just kind of smush it together. I don't want to overwork it. I'll just make one round biscuit. Or you could square it off if you want. Okay. These, I might just squish it on the bottom of that one. We'll see how that will work. Okay, from here, I'm gonna stick it on a sheet pan. Oh, I'm having issues today. Add it on a sheet pan. You could, I'm gonna egg wash the top of it. Or you could actually milk wash it. Just want to aid in some browning. If you do not want to bake all of these right away, say if you make a lot of biscuit dough, you can freeze them like this and then bake them when you need it. All right. So I'm gonna egg wash these. See how important it is to get your mise en place ready. I'm not ready today, but it's okay. You could actually, when they freeze and you're going to bake them, they actually puff up because that butter solidifies again. And what happens is when the butter melts, actually when you bake it and the butter's cold, the pastry cooks faster and then the butter melts, creating a better flake. Okay, so I like to egg wash this. If you want a shiny top for a biscuit, you're gonna egg wash it. You could egg wash it. But if you want kind of like a typical biscuit, it's kind of a dull brown, what you wanna do is cream wash it or egg wash it. No, sorry, cream wash it or milk wash it. It'll have like a kind of a dull kind of brown color, okay? So from here, it's good. You could, this is the same pretty much technique if you want to do scones. Scones and biscuits are almost the same. So you could freeze these now and then bake them later. I'm gonna just stick them in a hot oven. It's about 400 degrees and they're gonna bake up. And I'll show you the finished product. Okay, these are the biscuits right out of the oven. Okay, they're nicely golden brown. This one is a little bit underdone just because it was bigger, but see the bottom is nice and brown too. The bottom should match the top. The sides, look at that. Isn't that amazing? Oh, it's hot. Ay, just came out of the oven. But look at the layering, okay? You saw how kind of short they were. They rose pretty big. If this biscuit was a little bit colder and I popped it in the oven, it would have a nicer rise. But that's good. Imagine that in a sandwich. Let me just open it up for you. Oh, look at all that steam. Oh, look at how delicious that looks. Anyways, so those are your biscuits. They could be round. I forgot to mention, if you want them all the way brown like this, separate them on a sheet pan. But if you want them kind of soft that you get to pull apart, like those typical biscuits, the ones that you could tear, you want to put them kind of close together so they'll bake into each other and it'll have a soft corners. So if you want that, just make sure you bunch them together before you pop them in the oven. Okay? Enjoy your biscuits, guys. Have a good one.